Hey there, welcome back to Nurtured Noire, where we celebrate the beautifully complex journey of Black womanhood and Black motherhood. I'm Nanji, your host. As always, I am so glad that you're here. Today, we're diving into the world of stay-at-home moms. From the outside, it might look like naps, snacks, and a whole lot of free time, but honestly, we know better, don't we? If you've ever felt undervalued, misunderstood, or just plain tired of explaining that being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job and overtime with no extra pay, this episode is just for you. Let's pull back the curtain on what it really takes to run a household, raise kids, and keep your self of sense intact. Let's start with the myths about being a stay-at-home mom, because child, there are plenty. How many of you have heard these before? It must be nice to relax all day. You don't work, so you have time for everything. What do you even do all day? And my favorite is, how can you afford to be a stay-at-home mom? Another one is, what does your husband do? The reality is, being a stay-at-home mom is like running a small business, except the clients are your kids and they don't pay you at all. They don't always say thank you, and they have no concept of your work-life balance. Who would want a job like that? Freely. I don't know, if you ask me. From managing schedules and preparing meals to cleaning up endless messes and being the go-to emotional support system, it is non-stop. And let's not forget the mental load. Remembering doctor's appointments, planning meals, having grocery lists, organizing play dates and extracurricular activities, making sure that they don't, look a mess when leaving the house. Being a stay-at-home mom, you are the CEO, the chef, the janitor, chauffeur, and therapist of the household. So no, it's not just sitting at home. Let's talk about the emotional side of being a stay-at-home mom. There's this constant tug of war between wanting to give your kids everything, especially if you didn't grow up with much, and feeling like you've lost yourself in the process. Personally, so have I. Many stay-at-home moms struggle with isolation, identity, and validation. Let's break this down. With isolation, you're spending most of your time with your kids, and that can feel very lonely, especially when you don't have other stay-at-home mom friends or other mom friends or friends in general. And to be home all the time, especially when your kids are little, can be feeling like you're on an island all by yourself. Another thing stay-at-home moms struggle with is identity. You might wonder, who am I outside of being a mom? Because society tells us, to find the boy, get married, have kids. There is very little wiggle room for career, for finding yourself. And my therapist told me that I spent most of my life being something to somebody else. I was a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm a friend, now I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I'm also a student. And at that time, it's like, okay, but where is me? What is my identity? What does that look like outside of those titles that have been placed on me? And we'll move to validation, which is another thing that we struggle with, because society often undervalues the very hard work that we do at home. Because you hear those snide comments from people about stay-at-home moms and the idea of what a stay-at-home mom is, which is different from a stay-at-home wife, but that's another conversation for a different day. And though we are celebrated in the sense of Mother's Day and things like that, but it's a very thankless job, because as women and as mothers, it is something that we are supposed to do. And personally, that is not an idea, a concept that I want to be attached to, because there are very capable women and very capable men who stay at home or who work and are amazing parents, but they get the thank you. And even for men, though we are not centering men in this podcast, but they get applauded for doing something so basic, like taking their kids to the doctor's office or taking their kids to the park. But when it is a woman or a mom, or especially a stay-at-home mom, we don't get that thank you. It's not like, okay, yeah, good job. It's just like, oh, well, that's just what you're supposed to do. And personally, that is not fair. But unfortunately, that is something that is so common in society. For Black stay-at-home moms, there's also the added layer of societal expectations. There's this narrative that we have to work harder, do more, prove ourselves, whether we're in the workforce or staying at home. It's okay to acknowledge that this is hard. You're not failing, and you're human. And circling back to being a Black stay-at-home mom, the pressure, I feel, is even higher because, culturally, because historically, we were always working. We were always mothers. We took care of other people's children. Literally, that was our livelihood. So when you have the concept of being a Black stay-at-home mom, it's just like, okay, why are you resting? Why do you get to not work? Why do you have to depend on your husband to share the load, share the mental load, the emotional load, the spiritual load? It has to be all on you, right? I can't tell you how many times I have gotten side eyes from people when they have learned that I'm a stay-at-home mom, but we'll get into that. So how do we move from surviving to thriving as stay-at-home moms? Here are some strategies that I think that can be helpful, and that has helped me as well. The first thing is finding your community. Connect with other moms, whether online or in your local area. A support system is so invaluable. This is a community that I have built, and I appreciate y'all so much, because I find other people that understand what it is that I'm talking about, what it is that I'm going through, and I can be a safe space, and they can have a safe space as well. And in terms of finding local moms in your area, that is a little bit harder. I have found 2 amazing other mom friends that understand what it is that I am going through. I have found another mom friend in church. She's absolutely amazing, and I appreciate her so much because she also understands what it is I'm going through. It is difficult to find stay-at-home mom friends because we're at home. So going out to the community, whether it's at your local library or just talking to another mom at the park, we have to get out of our own bubble for our sanity. The second thing, scheduling me time. Whether it's a walk, a hobby, or just 10 minutes of quiet, prioritize time for yourself. My me time is anything that has to do with a bath or a spa. That is my specific me time, or doing makeup, or even creating content. If you guys didn't know, I'm on other social media platforms as well, and I have a separate YouTube channel that I do a lot of makeup and fashion and things like that on there. And to me, that is my me time, to pour into things that I enjoy and that I like. And that has helped me so much in keeping my sanity, because it is needed raising children. Number 3, set boundaries. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you're available 24/7. Communicate your needs to your partner and, of course, to your family. Y'all, I tell my kids, mommy needs some time right now, or mommy wants to be alone. Granted, my husband, as amazing as he is, he can tell when I don't want to be bothered. And there's a lot of times when he's just like, babe, just go upstairs. I got it. Because when you are having feelings or just waking up on the wrong side of the bed, it is okay to set those boundaries if it's possible. And telling your partner and your kids, y'all, please leave me be. I want to be left alone. I need a break to turn off my mom brain. And that is okay. And that is something that I struggled with so much in doing because I thought that that was selfish. But mama, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So that is something that is absolutely necessary. Number 4, celebrate small wins. Made it through a tough day, got the laundry folded, go to Starbucks, go to your local coffee shop, go to Target, get you something nice. Celebrating those small victories because they actually matter. Taking care of children is a privilege and it's a task and it's hard. So getting through a day and your children are laughing and smiling and you are still breathing at the end of the day, do something for yourself to celebrate it. And lastly, remember your why. Whether you chose to stay home for your kids, your mental health, or other reasons, revisit that purpose when the days feel long. And that is another thing that I struggled so hard with because I couldn't remember my why. But once I did, it was just like, okay, I can proudly say that I was there for my kids, that I am there for my children. They have access to me. I have access to them. I'm able to go to so many things in a way that I didn't have growing up. And even if you are a working mom and you feel guilty about those feelings, which is completely valid, you are doing the best that you can. Even if you're spending an hour or two with your children after work, those hours are still important, and your children will thank you in the long run for doing the best that you can to creating a better life for them, whatever it is that looks like. Because at the end of the day, we are all just trying to make it. Like I had mentioned earlier, this is the point in time where I want to explain to you guys my own personal experience about becoming a stay-at-home mom. And I would love for you all to either, comment on this podcast or send me a DM on Instagram, the Nurtured Noire podcast, about your experience about being a stay-at-home mom as well. Now, my journey at being a stay-at-home mom started in 2018 when I was pregnant with my first girl. And it was such a hard time because I didn't know what I was doing at all. And, I had talked to my husband because I was working at a shoe store in the mall. And I decided I no longer wanted to work there. I have a degree. What am I doing working at a shoe store? And I'm super pregnant and working retail. And I was like, this is not it. And I was already having problems working there. So it just made sense for me to stay at home. Though it wasn't something that I was 100% sure on, and not necessarily sure about the experience, but what I knew for sure is that I didn't want to go back to that retail store, and I didn't want to put my daughter in daycare because I was only off for 6 weeks, and paid maternity leave for my job at the time was only, I don't think they were paying me, but there are some places that were giving 50% of their pay. They weren't paying me at all. So I'm just like, you know what? Might as well stay home. So I have this conversation with my husband and he's like, you know what? I agree. God got us. We will figure this whole thing out. Cool. No problem. And after a week, he got a week off from his job. And during that week, it was really nice. We were kind of getting into the swing of things, and I had support from him. And everything came crashing down when he went back to work. I was miserable. There's been many days that I called my mother-in-law And God bless her. She did what she could, but she was also working, so she was not readily available. My own mother, she stayed with us, I want to say, for about a month or so, and her help was amazing. But on the other hand, it was kind of difficult because it felt like I was constantly being criticized about the things that I wanted to do for my kid at the time. You know, was raised in an older generation, and obviously, you know, in Haitian culture, things are completely different, and I wasn't in a place to make that connection yet. I wanted to do what I wanted to do and kind of figure it out on my own, and I wasn't necessarily allowing her to help in the way that she could, because I thought I knew everything, though I was in the trenches, okay? So after she had left, it was back to reality that I was like, wow, I am really doing this. And it felt like at the time alone. You know, my husband was working retail, and, you know, not seeing him for 8 hours a day, and the newborn stage, you know, we're napping 3 times a day. So I really didn't see him. And it was such a struggle for me, to the point where postpartum depression hit like a Mack truck. Same thing with postpartum anxiety. And I didn't realize it at the time. Until one day, my husband, he sat me down. He was just like, babe, there's something different about you, and I really think that you need to get some help. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because what it is that I'm feeling right now is not of God. 1, let's be real. And 2, very scary. 3, something that I no longer want to feel. And that process there was my start in therapy. And through my therapist, you know, she has been such a pillar in where I am now. And she has shown me a lot of the things that I had experienced growing up, a lot of societal pressures and things like that has really affected how I'm able to mother. And that's great, but being able to accept that is a completely different journey on its own. But it is so essential in wanting to be the best parent that you can be. And as time went on, you know, things had gotten a little bit better. And then we had our second daughter. And at that point in time, you know, we were still living in our apartment, and things were just getting a little bit harder. You know, we're just like, okay, we need to expand our space. You know, we have 2 children, and we cannot live in this apartment anymore. And we were having experience with our landlord, and it just pressure on top of pressure. And then the pandemic hit. And as a stay-at-home mom, you're already at home. And it's just like, I don't want to stay and look at these 4 walls anymore. Granted, it was great because I had my husband with me, and he was able to offload a lot of the pressures that I was feeling. I wanted to leave the house because I was already at home literally 24/7 for about 2 years before we had our daughter, our second daughter. And I was just going absolutely stir crazy. There was not a lot of time. There was not a lot of hours in the day to watch Frozen, okay, and to watch Toy Story 1 through 5, because that's what we did at least every single day. And that was such a struggle for me. Now, come into a little bit after the pandemic, we move into our new home, thank God. And, you know, still, my husband was working retail, and I'm explaining to him, like, hey, babe, like, I really need to figure something else out. I can no longer stay at home. I feel like I'm really losing my mind. Granted, I'm still in therapy and doing all of these things, and it's helpful a little bit, but I've just coming to my breaking point. And, you know, we talked about it and things like that, and, you know, it didn't work out the way that we wanted it to. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, let me use the tools that my therapist has given me to kind of get through this point in time of my life. Now we have our final child, our son, and I was just down in the trenches. I'm like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I want to just leave and not do this anymore. And, trigger warning, that was the point in time where I tried to unalive myself because I was so exhausted of constantly being on this wheel of being a mom and doing the mundane things every single day. And there are a lot of you who do know this, that are in my personal life, who knew this story. But for those who are listening, I want you to know that if you've ever had those feelings, I understand. And like I said, this is a safe space because I went through those feelings for the last 7 years, and I'm so thankful for God. Obviously, my faith has really helped push me through and help sustain me during those moments, and my family, because without them and obviously therapy, who knows? I honestly would not have been here. But now, all 3 children, they are in school, and I'm able to pour into myself the way that is aligned with God's purpose for my life. And I am able to be a better mother and I'm able to be a better wife. But most importantly, I'm able to be a better me. And at the end of the day, for me, being a stay-at-home mom is one of the hardest but most rewarding things. And what I love the most about it is that I am able to see the impact of my presence on my kids. But it has also taught me the importance of pouring into myself, because a burnt out mom cannot give her absolute best. Being a stay-at-home mom is no easy task, but it's also an incredible opportunity to shape the lives of your children and your household. I read something somewhere that said that your husband is the thermostat, but you as a wife control the temperature. And that has stuck with me for days, because it is up to me to make sure that I am able to handle what's going on in my own household. And I want you to remember, Mama, your work matters, even if it's unseen. You are allowed to set boundaries and take time for yourself. It is not selfish. And you are enough just as you are. If this episode resonated with you in any way, please let me know. Share your thoughts in the comments or join the conversation on Instagram at the Nurtured Noire Podcast. And if you know another mom who needs to hear this, share this episode with her. Let's continue to build this community of support and of love. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Your support helps us grow and reach more women like you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And until next time, stay nurtured, stay bold, and always stay you.